Exactly 1 week ago, we completed IM Texas 70.3. I want to talk about a couple different things in this video. One, what we did the past week, not a big deal. Two, the change in mindset that we're going to have. And three, based off the new mindset, the schedule going into the future. So the first thing let's talk about is what we did this past week. Not a super big workout week. We didn't make any vlogs or anything. Maybe we get back to them this week. We'll see. But I mean, it was the week after our first big race, right? So I didn't want to push things too hard. I pretty much just did whatever I wanted. I mean, I felt like running a lot. We biked some. We didn't swim at all, and we lifted a lot of weight. So just kind of having fun this past week. Today's Sunday. We did yoga this morning, but we're probably going to take the day off. That way we can hit the ground running because we have a pretty intense training schedule coming up we're about to talk about. The second bullet point I want to discuss is the change in mindset that we have. So previous to IM Texas 70.3, I was sitting here going, okay, I just want to focus on surviving. I have no goals with any times. I need to make sure I'm not going to drown on the swim. For the real Ironman that we have in June, it's what I just learned yesterday. The number one race in all of Ironman races in elevation gain. I knew it was up and down mountains the entire time. I didn't realize exactly to what extent. So arguably, we are going to have the toughest bike course in any Ironman race. So we need to make sure that we're going to survive it. And based off what we did this past Sunday on the bike, I think we can survive it. But I did much better in the race on Sunday than I was expecting. I felt much better. I didn't feel wrecked at all. And I want to say, I think I can be pretty damn good at this, to be completely honest. I'm changing my mindset, not necessarily to just one that I'm focusing in on surviving. And instead, I want to do very well. I don't want to just complete it. And instead, I want to not compete to win the race. I understand that that's not going to happen. I mean, I understand that we would have been working towards this goal for years and years and years. But I want to compete maybe to qualify for Kona. I want to compete for qualifying for Worlds. Maybe it doesn't happen in June. Not a big deal one way or another. If it doesn't, it will be our first full one. But I want to qualify next year. So for that to happen, I think we are going to have to kind of change from not really having a plan and instead just waking up and doing whatever we feel like, which, I mean, it was fine, but I just have an issue of if we don't have something on paper, it's very easy to bail on a ride on the bike. It's very easy to bail on a swim. Running, I love, because running, I'll run like, say, 5 miles away from the car and I'm doing a 10-mile loop. And it's like, okay, you can't quit this. You're going to have to run 5 miles back regardless, so you don't have to constantly be fighting the urge to throw in the towel. Whereas if I go on the bike trainer in the garage, I'm in my garage. If I am in the lap pool swimming, I am 100 feet from my phone, my car keys, and the weights where I can go downstairs and just lift. So when I'm doing those exercises, it's a constant mental battle where I'm constantly negotiating with myself. Where I want to say, oh, you did an hour. That's good enough. Oh, you did 30 minutes. Well, we'll do it. We'll do more tomorrow. And it's just that constant battle where I don't have that goal set in place going into the workout. Where I think if we get something on paper and we have that set plan, we have that set goal, the option to quit halfway through a bike ride in the garage and get off, go eat lunch or whatever it may be, the option to just get out of the pool because I'm bored, hopefully it doesn't get to me as much. I still expect it to be a challenge. I still don't want to say that I've completely found the solution. I mean, we have no idea. I'm just now starting this. But I think it's a good starting point to have a legitimate plan. So last night, I sat down and tried my best to write what I believe is a very solid plan that we are going to take going into the future. Is right now for Ironman Nice, we are one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9 weeks away. Exactly 9 weeks away from today, because the race is on Sunday, June 16th. So what I've done is I essentially have a Google sheet, and I'm not going to be putting like the mileage I need to run or the mileage I need to swim or the mileage I need to bike, because I definitely want to be working on a lot of altitude stuff. I want to be, a little bit more dynamic in how we're doing it. I don't want to feel like, oh, I have to bike 200 miles this week, so I need to only do it on a flat. No, I want to be able to get on the trainer and simulate the hills that we are going to have in Nice. So instead, we are going to commit to the hours that we need to be on that exercise. Every day we have mapped out. Starting this next week, here's going to be like the beginning. And it's an aggressive beginning, but I want to do very well in June. And I don't have a ton of work that I need to be doing. Or we'll see. Maybe we end up live streaming starting every day at the end of April, right after the NFL draft. But the streams early on in April, May, June, typically those are only like an hour, hour and a half. And we're already making videos every single day on the Dynasty channel. So, in terms of working, I think we can easily fit training into our schedule over the next few months. So the base week that we have right now is, say on Monday, which will be tomorrow, we're going to bike for 2.5 hours and we're going to swim for an hour. Then on Tuesday, we're going to bike for an hour and a half. We're going to run for an hour and a half. On Wednesday, we are going to bike for 2 hours and we'll probably end up lifting weights. We're not going to run or swim on Wednesday. Then on Thursday, we're going to run for an hour and a half, swim for an hour and a half. On Friday, this is going to be our big bike day. We're going to be biking for 3 hours, swimming for 1. On Saturday, we're going to bike for an hour, run for an hour and a half. And then on Sunday, we're just going to swim for an hour. Maybe we do yoga. And then we'll mix in yoga. We'll mix in definitely lifting weights into this. But this is going to be the core of the training. I think this will be the most important. So that's going to be a total of 19 hours. And what I wanted to do is, up until the race day, I wanted to be able to progressively overload with the amount of volume that we are putting in. So the next 2 weeks, we are going to continue to get better from this point. So say this week we had 19 hours mapped out. Next week, we're going to have 20 hours mapped out to training. Where we decided to add those hours in is we moved the Saturday run to 2 hours instead of 1.5. We moved the Sunday swim to an hour and a half instead of just an hour. And then going into the next week, we're going to take it one step further. We're going to go from 20 hours to 21 hours total of volume. And here where we decided to add this in is we went with another half hour of running on Thursday. And then we changed our Monday bike from 2.5 hours to 3 hours. And then we're going to go with the deload week. So we want to have, say, those 3 intense weeks. We want to have the 4th week with less volume so we can prepare for our 2-week peak. And in this one, we're essentially cutting the time it takes for everything. About by half, we only have 11.5 hours scheduled out of volume. So like instead of biking for 3 hours, biking for an hour and a half. Instead of biking for 2 hours, we bike for an hour. Instead of running for 2 hours, we run for an hour. So essentially we can hopefully feel a little bit better after this rest week. And then we are going to have 2 weeks to peak. So we are going to go right back to where we were 2 weeks prior. But we are going to take a significant step forward with the volume. So in this first peaking week, we are going to have 23 hours total of volume. We're going to have 2 3.5 hour bike rides. We're going to have 2 2-hour runs. And we're going to have a 2-hour swim and a 1.5 hour swim. And then this final week of peaking is going to be difficult because right now I'm supposed to be in Tampa this week. My little brother has graduation, which obviously we're excited to go and check out. But this is the week where we need to make sure that we are getting the most volume we can in, because we're going to have a 2-week taper where we cool down going into the race. So looking at this, my plan for this week is I think on Monday, we're going to do a 4-hour bike, an hour swim. We fly to Tampa on Tuesday. So I think we're going to do an hour and a half swim, an hour and a half bike. Maybe we move. The issue is we can't really run, because we're going to have to save our runs, I think, for when we're in Tampa. Because when I'm in Tampa, I'm not going to be able to bike and I'm not going to be able to swim. So while in Tampa, I think we're going to be running an hour and a half and running 2 hours in those 2 separate days. I think I may end up having to move my flight to Friday at the end of the week. It just so we can get back and just so we can put this in. If we can fly back on Friday, I'm going to want to bike for 3 hours. And we're actually probably going to have to change this around because if we want to have the 6 hour bike this week, we may end up having to move that to Sunday. So we'll bike for 3 hours on Friday. Saturday, we're going to move to a 2 hour swim and a 2 hour run. And then we'll have that 6 hour bike on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, and then afterwards, we're going to be tapering. Or we'll probably start our taper about 2.5, 3 weeks out from the actual race. I mean, this we're going to change based off how we feel. I mean, this is so far out that I imagine that things change here just a bit. I'm excited. I think that having this on paper, especially if we're vlogging every day so we can wake up and we can look at exactly what we need to do. I can say it out loud in a video. And at the end of the day, I can either face the music on why I failed or brag about how we succeeded. And we did get on the bike for 3 hours. We did swim for an hour. I think hopefully that helps us stay accountable as well. And what you may notice is we have a lot of biking volume through this. Like the first week, we're biking for 10 hours. We're running for 4.5. And we are swimming for, I believe, 4.5 as well. So we're spending a lot of time swimming. We're spending a lot of time biking, not as much running as what we've done in the past, but running's our strength. Running's what I have fun with at the same time. So that's kind of why it's our strength because, I mean, that's whenever I'm doing just whatever I want, a lot of times it is to go out there and run. But since we're solid at that, I mean, we were like 7th at our age group in the run for Ironman Texas. I think we just need to make sure that we are good with the swim. I think we need to make sure we are good with the bike. Because last year with the swim, I mean, the water was too hot to wear wetsuits. So, I mean, I think maybe we can swim 2.4 miles now in a wetsuit. Hopefully, we'll see. But if we don't have to wear a wetsuit, it'll be more difficult. So I want to make sure we feel good with that so we can start closer to the front of the pack, where this past one we started at the very back. And the biking, like I said, looking this up, it looks like Nice may be the most difficult bike course in all of Ironman races. So definitely want to make sure that we are prepped for that. And if we can crush those two things, I think the adrenaline could carry us through the run. But that's all I got for you. Maybe we'll get back to the daily vlogs starting tomorrow. And yeah, starting tomorrow, we will have a 2.5 hour bike ride and an hour swim.